So I start recording. Now a few logistic issue. First one, for your last class, last participation mark is already online. November 5th, that's a date. Why don't you see the November 5th? I already said the last class, November 5th would be the mark for your used car. If you participate, get the participation mark. You keep saying that no, I posted twice. Now you complain that you have 2 marks. So I removed the second already. I removed the second one already. You only 1 November 5th marks for your participation. And the used car, you cannot see it anymore. That's for assignments submission. It's not for your participation. Participation mark always under the date. What day you have it. That's one. And second one is a very interesting one, right? We say that if you participate, you get a 10 out of 10. If you are the best buyer or the seller, you get a 20 out of 10. If you are the worst buyer or seller, you get a 0 out of 10. So now if you check your marks, you probably understand why you get that much. If you are the worst buyer or seller, you get a 0 out of 10. If you are just regular, 10 out of 10. You are the best, you get a 20 out of 10. So for this this used car is about negotiation. It's so important for everybody to understand negotiation skill is the one essential for everybody, not just for managers, even though managers do quite a lot compared to you. But think about yourself. If you have to come here, most of you probably already in Windsor. If you go buy a used car, what would happen? If you don't learn how to negotiate, you'll be screwed. It's so easy. You know, think about this one. That's why you have to be careful when you try to negotiate. You have to make sure you understand, you know, the process, maybe some know-how, something that we have to be careful. The best deal, Mazia, when we talk about the other logistics, don't worry. The highest price in our exercise, the 5,500. So that 5,500 price is the highest in our, you know, us. Anybody remember who got this one? Not too much, right? So we have this guy who is a seller, Saad Abu. Jafar, you got 50. Yes, I'm trying to put it over there. You should say it, yeah, so it'll be easier. 55, you get a 20 out of 10. You get a bonus mark. Too high, Mazia? Maybe. Another class, they get 8,500. So they're sold at this price. In the previous classes, we get a 10,000 price. So people try to sell this car. The same information, they sold it at 10,000. That's why negotiation is something is not so easy for you to consider. You never know how bad you are until you see others. Yachin, how? That's because you didn't try enough. So it's 5,500, 8,500, 10,000. It's all come from different negotiators. So that's why you have to learn. And that's why everybody believes that, yeah, I got a good deal. I got a good deal. No, you didn't. Until you see others, you don't know how bad you could be. And of course, how good you could be, right? Let's see what's the lowest price of the buyer. The best buyer? Want to be the one, the best buyer? Abdul Lumis? Are you still here? I hope your connection is good. Mr. Reggie, right? If you are called that way. Okay, you are here. Very good. So you get the best price of the buyer, 1,800. Bought the car to buy this car. Catching, you want to ask how? But here you can see the buyer, the best, 1800. So we say that if you are the worst buyer or the worst seller, you probably get a 0 out of 10. But for the best buyer, like you get a 20, 1800. The reason for some incentive is to make sure you work harder rather than just give others, right? Chen? Yes, definitely. Abdul, are you here in winter or are you still somewhere in different country? Are you here? We should get him, right? Oh no, are you here, right? We should ask assistance. Ah, too bad. We should wait until he comes here to buy the house, to buy the car, right? We cannot. We need a very good buyer to help you out with that 1800 to buy the car that was 4,000, 5,000. And on the other hand, maybe because Chen Lu, right? You don't even pay attention or didn't even care about the price. Well, I give you the price. Maybe I'll give you 0. You just take the car. Well, you got a 0 for this low deal. So we need to make sure that you understand the importance of a negotiation. So the car itself, it's easy. It's just exercise. Think about when you try to buy the car in real life. You pay 5,500. You pay 8,500. You pay 10,000. Where do you get the money? I said that if you have to use more than 4,700, you need to borrow from the bank, like a cash advancement from your credit card. Those 18%, 20% on the credit. Can you afford it? Maybe you are rich for those, like the buyer, the seller, right? That much? Where did you get the money? The normal range for this, yeah, we have a no deal. That's fine. Minger, no deal is just regular. That's fine. Actually, many times, no deal is a deal. If you cannot get agreement, that's fine. No deal is a deal. Sometimes it's a good deal. So if you see that, if you try to sell the car at 1800, you better have a no deal. If you sold this car at this one, no, you should not sell this car. Stop the deal. So no deal is a good deal. It's a good deal to go away. So the normal range for this negotiation will be around like this: 4,400 to 4,700. So any deal around this range is normal. But anybody get 4,400 below, the seller. If you are the seller and have the deal at lower than 4,400, you also make a big mistake. Just you're not the worst seller, but it's still a very bad seller. So 4,400, you know why? The 4,400 is the bottom line that the dealer is willing to pay you. If you remember the information, yeah, the trade-in value. Exactly, Daniel. Yeah, very good. You got it. And well trained. I like that. So the trade-in value, the dealer is willing to pay you $4,400. Why do you accept the price 1,800? 1,800 is the lowest among all like 150 students. How could you get an 1,800 price? Accept that one. That's a really bad deal for the seller. If you do the trade-in, a simple trade-in, the dealer will pay you that much. What was the idea to sell at that low? And of course, if you pay too high as the buyer, $5,500 to buy the car, you consider where did you get the money? You only have a 4,000 plus 700 in the bank. That's it. You may have to go to the, let's say, borrow money. Sorry. Borrow the money from the bank or to get the petty loan. You know how hard that is. You stretch your credit, you may not be able to get any money. So negotiation is fairly complicated. We have a whole set of course for MBA program to teach them. But I want you to know that at least one thing you have to remember when you get into any negotiation would be you have to understand what is your bottom line before any negotiation. Before you get into any negotiation, when should I stop the negotiation? That's the bottom line, or it's also called worst deal. What's the worst deal you are willing to accept? That's why in that information I ask you to fill out the 3 questions first before you go there. It looks like the 3 questions doesn't help you at all, or you don't even understand why we ask that question. So when you negotiate, understand what is my bottom line. I have to stay away. I have to walk away from the negotiable. That's it. Enough. I don't want to buy in anymore. So stop negotiation. That's why no deal is a good deal if you get this low kind of price to sell. Remember, anything we just put aside because we have a lot more. You cannot do that. But please understand for negotiation, at least you know what is your bottom line before any negotiation. I hope you pay some attention to this one. If you think about the training program, the negotiation training for all these practitioners, they often have to pay $300 hours to get the training. Sometimes I'm teaching EMBA, for example, in a different organization or different countries. They pay this $300 more per hour to pay for this training. And I give you this for free in the class. I hope you pay attention to learn something about your negotiation skills. Don't be overconfident about your own things. Always, as I said, you don't know how bad your negotiation skills are until you see others. When you get 4,500, for example, you're pretty sure, I'm good. I got 4,500. But see others, you got 5,500. So there's a quote. Winner takes all. In real life, if you are not the winner, nothing. Even though we have run up the second, the third prize, etc. But actually the winner takes all. Like think about the presidential election. Our neighbors, right? You take all the votes, electoral college votes, when you win that state. The winner takes all in negotiation. That's why people keep trying to get the best. Although you have the balanced relationship and trust and others, so that's a different story. But think about how to get there. Actually, think about the seller, as the seller, right? Trading value. Somebody else. Your bottom line always comes from your alternatives. You have another deal who is willing to pay you 4,400. Why would you accept anything below 4,400? That is the bottom line. See that? All the different alternatives. Best one determine your bottom line. As a seller, say this one. Somebody is willing to pay you 4,400. Do not go below 4,400. For those of you who go below 4,400, you make a big mistake. Even though you get a participation mark, you make a business mistake. For the buyer, it's the same. Where are your alternatives? Actually, for the buyer, you have to pay the money. But where do you get the money? So that you know your bottom line. For you, like 4,000 from the insurance company, 700 from the bank. That's it. Maximum for you, 4,700. The worst deal will be like this. If you pay 4,700, you sacrifice your vacation, long overdue vacation. You just use the money to buy the car. That's why you should not sacrifice them all. If it's possible, try to buy the 4,000, only the insurance money. But on the other hand, the seller would not accept it because they have a 4,400, right? That's why the would be like this: 4,400 and 4,700 in between the range for us to consider. If your deal is between this one, it'll be good, meaning that you know this kind of tricks. Otherwise, you don't. Negotiation is important because think about Earth. You go negotiate a job offer. It's all about your salary and other things. If you don't know how to negotiate in the first hand, you get a very low salary. Then your future job will pay you based on your previous salary. And your previous salary and the previous salary and previous salary, the first salary is low. So in your lifetime, if you don't know how to negotiate, you could lose millions of dollars. Because your salary is lower than the others by 20,000. See how how many years you can get there. This kind of things, you have to pay attention to learn how to negotiate rather than just give up so easily. Oh, whatever you ask, I will buy your car at 5,500. That's or as a seller, well, whatever you try to ask, I give you 1,000. No, you should not. This gives us. So we didn't make. Oh, that's fine. Yaqing is reasonable. No deal is okay. We said it already. No deal is a deal. So that's another mindset have to change. No deal is a deal. No deal is a deal. Just say that we agree, we don't agree. Okay, Yaqing, right? We agree, we don't agree. We come to a conclusion that we cannot agree on the price. So that's an agreement on the no agree. You really want to sell it, then it's up to you, right? To say I will stick to 4,400. Anything lower, you cannot. So you don't worry, you don't want to sell. If you cannot get 4,400, just go to see the dealer. Get a trade-in value already there. You have alternative to guarantee you get 4,400. That's why you don't have to worry anything below 44. You try to negotiate more than 44, then it's worth it. If you don't get it, no deal. I go see the dealer, get the money back. Clear? Okay, that's good. Qing, I hope you will be good. And we need to get our best buyer come here. I have to come to Windsor. I need to buy the house. I want you to be on my side. Kidding, but you can see that we do need to learn how to negotiate. Any question for this one? Negotiation exercise is kind of a very brief debriefing. For the debriefing, try to discuss to let you understand. Because in real life, you never know. In real life, in negotiation, you never know how much the other side get. That's why you cannot improve. You don't even know how much the other side get. Then you think yours is best. Yes, definitely. No deal is a good deal, particularly when you have your bottom line. If anything below your bottom line, I would not accept it. So there will be no deal. So you got to know that. Not just for the sake of a negotiation, you negotiate a deal. No need. So we said walk away points. Then you would know this one. First one, understand what is the bottom line. Accept no deal is okay. That'd be good enough for our international students. If you need to learn more, I may start some training classes, seeing whether it's worth to pay $300 per hour to learn how to negotiate. But at this moment, bottom line, you have to be clear. No deal is okay. So that'd be good enough for us. If you don't have a question, let's come to another logistic one. I think one student raised the question that we repeated so many times. Just let me repeat it again here regarding the project requirements and the formats. Abdulumiz, are you here already? Hope you heard us because your internet connection, maybe not. Good. So for our project reports, follow the APA style. APA style is a huge menu. Yeah. It's like a book. It's bigger than this book, APA style, but they have an online, like a shortened version regarding how to write academic paper for social sciences, including business. So APA style, you have a title page with all the name, the title of the projects, maybe with professor's name and etc. Then followed by abstract. Executive summary is optional. can do it, and within that table of contents, these different pages will not, be counted towards the page limit, and the page limit would be 5 pages, single spaced, or 10 pages, double spaced. So clear? You read the syllabus. You should read it. You watch the video. We said so many times, rather than just to keep asking the same questions. Font size using APL is always 12 times New Roman. With 1-inch margin on all left, right, top, and bottom. So that's one. Font size. You can use double space. That's why you don't have that much space for you to write a lot. That's why I recommend you use one theory or half the theory to explain the phenomenon. Now come to the question of the format of the main contents, 5 pages, for example. So you always begin with introduction, company information a little bit, and what's the problem. You don't have to detail all this problem. Very brief introduction of the problem, why you need to do this one. Then second part follow with these real problems. I break down what are the key issues you think are relevant, do the analysis, and relate them to the series you try to use. Any theory from the book, not just the theory we cover from chapter 1 to chapter 15, anywhere. So with this analysis, you start a new section, what I recommend the company would do. Many times students make mistake by analysis and recommendation you put together. No, it's also because you don't know how to write the analysis. They often say, oh, all these employees are not happy, we should raise the salary. No, you should say, all the employees are not happy, stop it. Raising salary is recommendation. You go to another part to discuss. Of course, when you talk about the recommendation, you have to relate it to the problems. So do the analysis of the problems alone. Not saying that we should do something, that's recommendation part. After recommendation, win the theory-based recommendation. You try to conclude, say, what should we do in general? Like 1 paragraph or 2 paragraphs, recommend to the company. That's about recommendation. Followed by reference list. You should know that APA style have very rigorous, reference formatting. I said it once again. You should format according to APA, even from the beginning. So many students losing mark in this APA style. Hope you can get it. So any question for this? No? Or any? I'll keep have left of session, joining the session. All right. Another minor issue would be right now our graduate studies, FGS, Faculty of Graduate Studies, is making 2 videos for recruitment purpose. Okay, about our M1 program, about our MBA program. Already asked MBA programmer and Ken Walker and others to identify students. They need 2 students from the program to be interviewed to make a video for recruitment. Anybody want to be the volunteer to be interviewed by University of Windsor Marketing Department? If you are interested, let me know so that I can recommend your name to it. Azir, you want to do that, or anybody else, Sam, whoever you are interested, and we will do a video by the marketing department to introduce. They will introduce a little bit about the program, your experience, your feeling, etc. Anyone? Of course, they will find a right time I contact you. So let me know if you are interested. We can schedule a time for them to interview you. Okay, any questions? No? All right. If you don't have any question, let's start the next chapter about leadership. The reason that we did that new used car negotiation is related to this leadership. As a leader, you negotiate every day, even though for us, we also negotiate a lot. Leaders are extremely important. If you think back when we talk about the groups, the people together, we have all kinds of a group, and then we socialize them through the process of socialization and the influence. We want people to share the values, to share the identities, to buy in the organizational culture. It's a key part, organizational culture. And we have a strong cultures often have some predetermined steps to socialize people. And the question would be, where does the culture come from? You still remember? Where does organizational culture come from? Yeah, very good, Danny, right? Our founder or founders, anyway. So value, the philosophy, the norms from the founders give life of this organization. So that's why the soul of the organization. And after that should be all leaders. So all leaders, CEOs, all executive managers, they try to socialize people. Then this value will be internalized by all these newcomers. Therefore, we want to discuss leaders, how they do different things. And leadership is also a very big chapter. You can see that 159, 160 slides, second only to motivation. So this one is mainly about all kinds of leadership theories. Some we will do a very quick introduction. Some you need to be aware to understand what it is. So this chapter is all about different leadership theories. We should have 15 or 16 different leadership theories. The key for you is to understand some, know a few others, so that you will be able to. So you will be able to say, when we say what is transformational leaders, you have to be able to explain, answer relevant questions. So leadership talk about influence that a particular individual exert on the goal achievement. We say that the management is really about how to get things done through others. That's about the leadership. So leadership is the influence. The influence, will exert in the organizational context. So what is the leadership? It's about to motivate people and get their commitment and to get things done. First concept, our first theory is about the strategic leadership. So strategic leadership talk about how we look at the future, focus on the future and make all the strategy to get there. That is called strategic leadership. It's your ability to anticipate, envision, maintain, think, and work towards the goal by focusing on the future. That is strategic leadership. And leadership also have this so-called formal leadership and informal leadership. So assigned to you or you developed. Like our project team leaders would be informal leaders. You could rotate, you could be emerging from the process, but they're informal leaders anyway. Then we start to discuss. So first one, strategic leadership, and then the rest will be different category leadership theories. The first theory is about the trait theory. I want you to understand about this theory. Second is behavior theory. Third one is situational theory. Situational theories, because there are many. The trait theory, when was this trait theory developed? Actually, if you think back, long time ago, people already thought about how to find leaders. Who would be our savers, for example? But contemporary management research on leadership began in World War I. We tried to find a leader so that they could motivate soldiers to kill more, to be more effective, right leaders. So at that time, they thought the first thing would consider would be traits, personality, right? Certain personality make a great leader. So that's about are leaders born or made. The trait theory believes that all leaders are born with their genes, with their personality, so they become great leaders. So leaders are born, not made, according to trait theories. So trait theories has these kind of different traits. For example, intelligence. Leaders must be smart. I guess this would be like a self-evident, must be smart. Leaders must be energetic and self-driven. For example, people say great leaders can only sleep 4 hours. Otherwise, you cannot be great leaders. Can you do it? They sleep 4 hours a day. They become the great leaders. Do you have that potential to become a great leader? Sleep, maybe you sleep too much. Instead of 4 hours, sleep 14 hours, right? Too many of us sleeping 14 hours, maybe. I'm kidding. Like in our classroom, too sleepy. So energetic, drive, self-driven. This will be the key traits associated with leadership effectiveness. Must be confidence, dominant, or sometimes even over-dominant, say domineering, and a social ability. You must be a social person to be a leader. Yeah. They're not stressed. You mean they're not stressful? Yeah, they're confident, so they don't feel the stress, even though they have a very tight schedule. Yeah, they calm. So this personality, when you think about the big five, all five, the big five dimensions are related to this leadership success. Big five personality traits. If you still remember extroversion, agreeableness, emotional stability, right? And conscientiousness plus open to experience. So this will be the big five. These are related to great leaders. And research tried to find out, is this true? In the old time, they did find some evidence to support, like a big five associated with that. But it's often difficult to determine whether the traits of the leader or whether the opportunity for leadership produce the traits. Because our personality, even though it's very stable, we still try to learn. The learning process happens all the time. So the dilemma would be, does the trait make the leader, or does the leadership provide opportunity for you to develop the traits? If you think about it another way, because this trait theory approach for leadership will be too pessimistic. Why? Because when this theory, leaders can only be born, you cannot be made. So leaders are born, then our parents determine whether we become a leader or not. We cannot be. We cannot decide. So it looks like we are hopeless. Just wait, we have a great parents, then we just become a leader. Otherwise, can't. That's why this trait approach is too pessimistic, and we don't know the causal relationship between trait and leadership success. That's why we introduce to this behavior series. Behavior series more talk about leaders are made. They can be trained, but then born. Leaders are not born, they can be made, they can be trained. So that's a we call leadership behaviors. If you learn this kind of behaviors, you will be effective leaders. That is behavior theory about leadership. And this happened in 1940s and 1940s, Ohio State University, and also in our neighbor, University of Michigan, across the river over there, Lansing, University of Michigan, UM. These two universities both find out this one, the leadership behavior theory, independently. And you can see that from Ohio State University, they found these two basic kind of behavior about consideration and initiating structure. Kind of hard to understand. What is consideration? What is initiating structure? That's why Ohio State University get these two dimensions, but University of Michigan get two much easier to understand. So they believe all our leaders demonstrated two kinds of behaviors: oriented, task-oriented. So two kinds of behaviors. We focus on people, consideration. We focus on task, initiating structure that is people-oriented versus task-oriented. So these two kind of behaviors talk about behaviors that we can use for effective leadership. So this consideration is about the people, this initiating structure about the tasks, and these two can lead to different success. To make employees feel better by being considerate. To focus on tasks, make people feel better by accomplishing the task. That is a structure. So this is a behavior theory for leadership. But then one important element was missing from this picture is about the nature of the situation. Is missing about what kind of situation would people-oriented or task-oriented be more effective. We're gonna get to that one in the situational leadership series. So we have a trade theory, we have a behavior theory, we have a situational theory. But before we discuss situational theory, another two sets of behaviors need to be emphasized. The first one is leader reward behavior. Talk about providing employee with compliment, tangible benefits, and special treatment. Or leader punishment behaviors. Talk about use reprimands or unfavorable task assignments. If you don't like me, right? Remember, similar to me effect. I'll assign you to a very difficult area, very poor region to do the task. That's kind of leader punishment behavior. Or try to withhold raise, promotion, and other rewards. So these two type behaviors are also effective if you can do them contingent upon their employee behaviors. So that would be more effective if you can find the contingency. So the reward behavior, punishment behavior corresponding to behavior theories. Generally speaking, behavior theory on leadership is to find different behaviors to know which one is more effective for leaders. So this will be leader reward and punishment behaviors. Then we have the situational theory of leadership. Talk about the settings where the influence occurs, the leader's influence, and how it occurs in certain situations. What kind of situation, what kind of state this influence will be more effective? That is called situational theories. It's not the one, situational theories of leadership. Then we come to first one is contingency theory or Fiedler's contingency theory. Second is Pascal theory or is Robert Howell's Pascal theory. Let's see the first one, contingency theory. Fiedler's contingency theory talk about the effectiveness. It depends on whether the situation is favorable or not. The Fiedler's contingency theory is saying that leadership effectiveness depends on whether the situation is favorable or unfavorable. But how do we know that the situation is favorable or unfavorable? So Fiedler developed one kind of a scale. It's called the leadership orientation. It's LPC. So LPC is called least preferred coworkers. So they ask the manager to consider, ask a leader or manager to consider, who is the least preferred coworker in your group? Think about yourself, your project team. Which one you don't like most? In your project team, which one you dislike most? That's least preferred coworkers. Which one you really want to kick them out? That kind of feeling. So that's one that for you to consider LPC. Least preferred coworker is the attitudes regarding how we treat different peoples. You can see that if you have one least preferred coworker over there and you still try to give a favorable evaluation, you are more like a relationship oriented or people oriented. If you describe the LPC unfavorably, means that you focus on task. I do not care whether you're happy or not. I focus on task. So when these two, let's consider three different situational factors. First one, leader-member relations. Second one, task structure. Third one, positional power. to determine the favorableness of the situation. So leader-member relations could be good or bad, good or poor, right? Task structure could be structured or unstructured. And the positional power could be strong or weak. So each of these factors has two different values: good, bad, clear, unclear, strong or weak. Altogether, how many different situations could we have with these three sectors? So how many different combinations could we have? Anyone? H, Ying, very good. Very smart. It's 2 by 2. So we have 8 different scenarios. Therefore, we have to consider which scenario is more favorable before we can decide what behaviors we want to use. This is contingent theory by Fiedler. You can see the favorableness, high versus low. How do they know? It's relationship, good or bad. Task structure, structured, unstructured, structured, unstructured. And this positional power, strong or weak. All together, we have 8 different scenarios. The most favorable would be this number 1. The least favorable would be number 8. And what behavior is more effective for leaders? Fiedler found out that when the situation is relative, we say more favorable or relatively favorable compared to others, or when the situation is least favorable, decide it's better to use these task-oriented behaviors. So if the situation is relatively favorable or unfavorable, we use task-oriented behaviors. In other words, if we have a very good relationship, if my position, my power is strong, if the task is clear, I just give you a task. We don't have to do anything. We have a good relationship, right? Do it. But if we have a very bad relationship, my position power is not strong, and you also don't know what to do, give you the task, do it. Maybe you can figure out. Otherwise, we use relationship. Our relationship is not good anyway. So if the situation is very favorable, it's very unfavorable, we use task. If it's a moderate level of favorableness, we use this relationship-oriented behaviors. Relationship-oriented behavior is more on supporting the other one, approachable, and provide kind of a support, training, etc. This relationship. So we use this here to determine when it's good to use task, when it's good to use relationship. So research provides lots of support, but the LPC that itself is not very clear. That's why we introduce another theory. It's called a House task goal theory. House, full name is Robert House. We will come back to this name later on, so try to remember. Robert House. He developed this task goal theory. What is task goal theory? Think about it. Goal and task. So goal is here, task get there is here. So as the leader, your job is to point out the goal and let them know what is the path to get there. That is the path goal theory. Again, it's concerned with leadership behaviors, but depends on, that's why it's called situational, depends on what kind of situation you have. The path goal theory talk about the most important activity for leaders is to clarify the path to different goals. The path to the goals, that's called path goal theory. First one, let's see what kind of behaviors leaders can be involved. Path goal theory concerned with 4 specific kind of behavior, including direct behavior. What is the direct behavior? It's to tell you what to do. It's also called task-oriented behavior. Supportive behavior. What is supportive behavior? Is to support you, provide all this service support. You do it on your own. That is supportive behavior. It's related to the relationship-oriented behaviors. Participative behavior means that I try to make consultation with you, consult with you. Let's say, what should we do with this one? So people participate in the decision-making process regarding the goal we try to achieve. That is the participative behaviors. Number 4 is called Achievement-oriented behavior really talk about we create a more challenge, more meaningful task so that employees will feel that, yeah, once I finished, I get the feeling, a sense of accomplishment, the self-actualization. So that's achievement, sense of achievement. So you provide all this challenge task to employees. This kind of a behavior we call it achievement-oriented behaviors. All clear when these four type behaviors a manager or leader can do so that we give the direction, we provide support, we allow them to participate, we provide opportunity for them to self-actualization. So these are four type behaviors you can use. But which one we should use in what kind of situation? Go to the house, we get this two set of situation factors. One is about employees characteristics, another one is environment characteristic or factors. We can see this model is four different behaviors based on these two different environment factors, get to all the results we try to achieve. Go theory saying that, oops, the wrong one, saying that employee characteristics, we have different needs, different demands, different desires. So what should we do? For example, let me see. For example, what should we do when we have a different type of employees? This is a task about differences. This is about the different employees. Different type of employees deserve different behaviors. For example, if you have high need achievers, they have a strong need for self-achievement, you better use that achievement-oriented leadership. If employees prefer to be told what to do, you better use the direct leadership. If employees have a low task ability, they don't know what to do, they will appreciate this direct leadership. Similarly, when tasks are clear and routine, this direct leadership would not be useful, would be redundant. When tasks are challenge, ambiguous, direct leadership may be effective. So we have different factors. Then we deserve different leadership behaviors. So this is one that we have to consider: situational factors and employees factors. But the research, we have substantial evidence to support this leadership behavior in Pascal theory. That's why this is a very important theory for you to remember. Leadership theory, Pascal theory, to get there. And we have evidence to support this theory, and also you see for different directive or structured leaders' behaviors would be most effective in some situations. So that's a Pascal theory. After Pascal theory, if you remember number 3, the participative leadership behavior, that one is particularly important. So we take it out to develop a new theory. This participative leadership theory is one of the leader behaviors in this Pascal theory, but we want to make it a new theory regarding how to involve employees in the process of decision making. And leaders can vary the extent to which they involve this different decision making process and how we're going to do it. So that will be participative leadership theory. So let's take a break. When we come back, we can discuss the details of this participative leadership theories. A 10 minutes break, we'll do that. All right, let's come back. I hope you have done some stretch out. Maybe just walk around, make sure you will not fall asleep, right? Let's continue this participative leadership. We know that participative leadership behavior comes from Robert House, the Glasgow theory. This one is, compared to others, is more important because talk about how to get people involved in the process of decision making. So people developed a new theory from that part. So this is called participative leadership theory. And it's mainly about how to involve individual employees or entire group or employees in the process to make the high quality decisions. That's about the participative leadership theory. In this process, of course, we try to make consultation with others, we try to ask opinion, we try to get information from others. We have to consider what are the advantages and disadvantages before we do that. So advantage would be the motivation, of course, to be good. People participate, most time they'll be more likely to do something. Quality be high, get different information rather than just your own. And also the acceptance level will be high for the decision itself. Once they participate in the process, they will more likely to commit to it, more likely to do it. Then when these advantages, we have to consider that whether it's worth it to do it. So potential problems for participative leadership would be it's time consuming. Often takes very long. If we have to ask every student, for example, here, takes like half the class just to get everybody to say a word. So that's time consuming, and sometimes it's a waste of energy. If the quality of the decision is low, if like I don't need a high quality decision, you don't have to waste the time or energy to do it. That's why the potential problem you have to consider. But more than that would be leaders, their feeling about this loss of power. If I ask others to participate, do I still have the same power? That kind of concerns also become a barrier to this participation stuff. The last one would be, do you have the knowledge? Do you have the skills? All our leaders, leaders would be, what should we say? Usually say, oh, you should come to participate in this process, but our employees may not have that kind of knowledge, skills, so they are not receptive to this idea of a participation. Using a cultural context later on, in different cultures, they don't have that kind of a tradition to participate. Why do you keep asking them to do it? So this kind of a being receptive to new change, new ideas is not a requirement. The problems about this. So given this advantage, disadvantage, then we need to know how do we get the best success for our participative leadership. So two authors, two scholars actually here. Now we have Vroom and Juggle. Do you remember who is Vroom? Vroom, remember that? Professor used to be working at McGill University, then he moved to other city in US. What did he do? Anybody? Didn't review at all? No? So expectancy theory. Vroom, yeah, very good. Okay, well, so just got it. So Vroom developed this expectancy theory, talk about why we were, we kind of motivated based on three questions. Can I do it? Can I get it? Do I like it, right? This is the expectancy theory from Vroom. Now he got another one. So this participative leadership, they developed a model to specify what level of participation is good. Because participation takes time, may cause concern in the managers. But it's also say high quality, more acceptance. We have to balance when we should use what type of participation or what level of participation. They talk about these different degrees of participation. In order to get that answer, they developed this one. So in their model, they have these three types of decision making, A, C, G. A stands for autocratic, C stands for consultative, and the G talk about the group. We get to these three, A1, A2. A1 is complete yourself. So you solve the problem, make a decision yourself. There are no consultation, no discussion. I do it. That's A1. A2, so you try to get the necessary information from your employees, then decide the situation, decide the solution yourself. You still make decision yourself, but I ask information from my employees. What should I do? This time would be individually anyway. So A2, you still make decision, you get some necessary information from your employees. Consultative strategy talk about C1, C2. C1, you share the problem. The sharing problem, one thing you have to be careful. This keyword here, individually. You share with them one-on-one, but independently, individually, to get the ideas and the suggestion, and you make decision. You can see that consultation is here, but you do that individually. There are no census among different employees. C2, slightly different. You can see you share the problem with the employee as a group. We sit together to discuss. Then we get creative ideas. The whole group thinks that way. And suggestion, you still make the decision. So A and C, still you make decision, but through different ways. It's A1, A2, C1, C2. The last one is consensus decision making. It's like you share the problem with your employees, the group, and together you make decision. You see, C2 and G2 differ in terms of that who makes the decision. C2 is you make decision. G2, the group make decision based on the consensus. This is a consensus-based decision-making process. You may wonder why we don't have G1. Do you have your G1 yet? Right? I know some students have trouble to get their root test, so they keep getting their G1 or G2. So you need to consider in order to get the car to drive one, have to get a G1, G2. So this G2 saying that we share the problem with group together, it comes from C2. Everything else is same except who makes the decision. Why there are no G1? G1 would be, normal time would be think about group make decision, consult with everybody individually. That's not possible, right? You cannot consult with every individual employee and group make a decision. That's why there is no G1, the only G2. So A1, A2, C1, C2, and G2. So this will be different level of participation. Which one should we use? What if when the majority? Majority, no. Consensus decision, actually, I raise a very good point. Consensus decision making is not based on majority. We are not going to vote. So say we have a solution now. Agree, you raise your hands. If you disagree, just raise your hand, etc. That's a vote or majority. No, consensus means everybody agrees. If there is no solution, keep discussing. Actually, you can see that consensus means that if you don't agree, keep discussing until you get one. That's why this kind of a decision-making process is so time-consuming. Many times, like in the Japanese companies, they use this consensus decision-making to improve the commitment of the decision. Everybody say, we agree to do it. But the process to make the decision is so, say, lengthy. You take so many different steps to get the decision done. That's a consensus. Majority is not. Majority makes a decision. It's like right now in the US. They only have a 49.6 and 48 on also 49.4. So slightly different. Who is the majority? So no matter who is elected, half of the people don't agree. That's not good. So consensus is both agree. All the people in the group agree. Then we do it. So that's the G2. And how do we know which one is good in terms of our decision-making process? Now come to this decision tree questions. So Varun and Jago decide in order to determine which level of participation is enough or sufficient, we have to consider 8 questions. That's why this model, you got to be careful. Ask 8 questions. Ask yourself as a manager, as a leader. What are the questions? First one, quality requirement. How important is the technical quality of the decision? If the quality, requirement is high, means that the decision need to be of high quality, I better do something by consultation. If the quality requirement for the decision is low, well, it doesn't matter that much. I can make a decision. So the quality requirement is one aspect. Second one, commitment requirement. If you make decision, would your employees buy it? Would they be committed? So what kind of a commitment required for implement this decision? That is commitment requirement. If you require high commitment, so you better consult with them. If you don't need a requirement kind of commitment, then you don't need to talk to them, right? That's the ideas about how do we know which level we should use. There are 8 questions. QR, CR, leader information, the structure of the problem, the commitment probability, goal congruence, and so conflict probability plus sufficient information. So subordinates, do they have information? If they don't, you ask them, it's useless, right? And based on this, we have a computer program. You can see this one. This is a computer program. They already developed this decision tree to understand under what circumstances for these 8 questions to go which kind of behaviors. So they already have a software. For you, you just answer this 8 question. In the computer, you know which one you should do. A1, A2, C1, C2, and G2. So very straightforward for this participative leadership. The key is to understand how we get there. You don't need to do it yourself because the computer, the machine will help us determine which one is the right one based on the question to answer. So that's a participative leadership series. And this model also receives substantial research support. It's very good, particularly when you talk about consultation versus autocratic decision alone. So that's about the participative. Let's go another exchange ones. So this will be just a simple condition for that participative leadership. Another leadership theory talk about LMX. This has been well researched, but the leader member is always about the relationship. So based on social exchange theory, we developed this leader member exchange theory, saying that, let's go to next to see the exchange theory. Exchange theory that if we give you something good, you are more likely to reciprocate that. You're more likely to return that goodness to me. So I treat you well, you are more likely to return that kindness to me, return that. So this is a social exchange. Individuals who are treated favorably, then they are more likely to reciprocate this kind of a favor. I do you a favor, you do me a favor. That kind of a social exchange. Social exchange is definitely like a leader influence, right? What should we do as leaders? We should develop high quality relationship between the follower and the leader. With this high quality relationship, not to mention the other similar to me effect, all right? That's a different one. This one is with this high quality relationship, the employees are more likely to return or reciprocate with effort, performance, commitment, satisfaction. You will feel that my managers treat me so well with respect. I'll do whatever he or she wants me to do. That kind of a social exchange. It's not the money exchange, it's social. So they treat you with respect, with you in favor, you will do that, you return back. So that's LMX theory. How many series have we started? Remember? Okay, Ying, you got a number. So from strategic leadership theory, that's one. Strategic leadership, trade series 2, behavior series 3, situational have 2, right? Situational theory talk about contingency theory and Robert House Goal theory. 5 already. Number 6 is participative leadership theory. Number 7 is LMX. So we have a 7 series about leadership already. Let's keep going. So number 8 would be this transactional leadership theory. This transactional leadership theory we talk about a little bit, away from social exchange. It's still based on social exchange, but it's more on transaction, meaning that as a leader, I will reward you if you do good. I punish you if you do bad. It's more like a transaction. If you do good, I give you reward. If you do bad, I give you punishment. Remember this leader reward and punishment behaviors. So that's the transactional. In addition, our leaders tend to be freestyle or management by exception. Let's see this management by exception, meaning I don't want to do anything to the current status quo, the current practice, unless something is wrong, unless this exception happens. See, this is exception. So when these exceptional events occur, I will try to take corrective actions. I'll do something to correct it. So management by exception, meaning that if there is no exception, everything is normal, I won't do anything. But if there is some exceptions, I will take a corrective action to change it. That is management by exception. Also means I don't do anything, the freestyle. The management, I let it go. So this will be the exchange, kind of a transactional. We have a transactional, we also have transformational. Transformational is a very important leadership theory. You may want to a little bit more time, because now they keep asking people to demonstrate this transformational leadership rather than transactional. The transactional is only social exchange. You do good, reward you, do bad, I punish you. That's kind of, I don't feel that the extra commitment or anything attached. While transformational is more about to develop the bond between the leaders and the followers. This kind of bond will change the followers' values and norms. That's why I talk about organizational culture needs to be socialized into the newcomers. So transformational leaders is really based on the idea, how could I change my employees so that they will be just like me to agree on our future? In organizational context, management leadership is about getting things done through others, right? But if all your employees there only try to get things done to get the money, it's so hard to motivate them. But if they also, just like you, to believe in the target, believe in the goal, they will have that kind of intrinsic motivation, self-driven to do it. That's transformational leadership. So if you try to think about it, transaction is to maintain. And transformational is to change, to maintain the status quo or to change the status quo. That's a key difference between transactional and transformational. Transactional is for maintenance. Transformational is for change. See this too? It's to change the value, so you will do it yourself to achieve this organizational performance beyond expectations. And some of the famous leaders, you can see that Steve Jobs, Ali Fiorina, all these different people. I'll come that a little bit later, but understand these 4 key dimensions for transformational leader behavior. We have 4 key dimensions. As a transformational leader, what you should do? First one, intellectual stimulation. First one, you should stimulate all your followers to think rather than just to do. To think about, yes, what's wrong with our current situation? Identify the problems in the current status quo. So you'll find a gap between now and the future. So this intellectual stimulation is to stimulate our employees, our followers to understand there is a gap between what we're doing and what we want to achieve in the future. So that's the one that you have to identify. People then to think about the create vision. We want to get there. That's our future. This intellectual stimulation can help create a vision so that you can work for this long-term objective. That's one. But if you just want to work, you also want to make sure our employees have no fear or concerns. So individualized consideration, the leaders should try all means to provide a one-to-one care or consideration. Consideration is about, considerate. We give you the care, we give you the support, we give you respect. So everybody feel that, yeah, you are the one I care about. This individualized consideration make charismatic, that's the one that I feel. I have to work for the division and I have somebody back me up. The next step would be motivation. Inspirational motivation from the transformational leaders is important for all the people to believe in the goal, to work towards the goal, to extra efforts. With longer time, that is motivation. And last one is charisma. Charisma is the most important characteristic. Let me just get it there. So charisma is the ability to command strong loyalty and devotion from your followers. So it has a strong potential to influence people. This is the most important aspect of transformation leadership. If you don't have the charisma, people are less likely to believe in you and they're less likely to be changed. So that's why charisma is so extremely important. And sometimes they also say transformational leadership is called charismatic. Charismatic leaders. This term, right? Transformational leadership is also called charismatic leaders if they have a strong charisma, the ability to command loyalty, commitment, devotion from followers. So charismatic leaders. Can you name a few charismatic leaders from real life? Anyone? In your mind, who? Yeah, very good. Joe Biden, Donald Trump. Okay, they could be. So you must believe they have that charisma to command this kind of loyalty, devotion. Maybe find somebody who less controversial, charismatic leaders. Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Nelson Mandela. Anybody else? Try to find. Okay, Jack Klub or maybe Gandhi. Yes, okay. But yeah, I got it. I think about Gandhi and yeah, Duan, they already mentioned Donald Trump. Not quite sure that's a good one. Say less controversial. If, Martin Luther King, that's a good one. So that's we even set a holiday to celebrate his contribution. So that's Winston Churchill. Yeah, that's one. During the World War II, he was he failed in the election right after the World War II. Very strange. Ali, yes, Muhammad Ali, Putin, Obama, Barack Obama, yes. So we can see that charismatic leaders, they often have that kind of ability to command this loyalty, commitment. Any others? Like how about Ed Frozer? Is he a charismatic leader? Okay, well, yes, yeah. Very good, Luo and Abazia. I saw that Jinping Xi, President Xi, no problem. So if you think about charisma, just like think about the Force in the Star Wars, they may get into the side, the evil side. Even the leadership has triangle. You've heard that dark triangle for leadership, narcissism, Machiavellianism, this kind of things. So the evil side of a force, a charisma, can also lead to huge, destruction rather than construction, right? So we got to be careful when we think about the charismatic leaders. But definitely, charismatic leaders, we say transformational leaders, in particular charismatic leaders, they can change your values. They can change your vision. Like Steve Jobs saying that what we need is not just a phone. It's something that make us, we can have fun, entertaining, and everything, every piece of our life is on that phone. Basically, that's the one. You try to serve to raise the quality of life for the human being. That's not a phone anymore. So kind of a vision is very important for people to commit to it so that they will try to do it with that self-actualization rather than relying on punishment, reward, or kind of exchange from the leaders. Once you transform them, they will do themselves. That's why the charismatic leaders or transformation leaders are so important. And to be better, I want you to be both transactional and transformational. And you know how to reward people at the same time, you also know how to change people. Because change often happens for uncertainty. When we don't know what to do, how we need transformational leaders. And the environment is our charisma is learned by trained rather than by nature. They have some nature, the traits over there, but we know this kind of a nature come from parents. If you think about the big five, it can be inherited, can be passed on to the next generation. So that's the transformational leadership. Look at this. This transformational leadership is especially effective during times of change and for obtaining employees' commitment to change. How do we make people committed to change? You need transformational leaders. The best one would be both transformational and transactional, meaning you know how to reward people. At the same time, you know how to change their values, to create a vision for the future. So, how many different leadership theories? If you want to think about, count 1, 2, 3, 4. So until like charismatic leaders or transformational leaders, we can say that basically we finished all these leadership theories. And then we have some new development. So new and emerging theory of positive leadership to see that what we can do even differently. We have the new ones. So traditional leadership theory stopped at transformational leaderships. Our new ones, we have 4. Empowering leadership, ethical leadership, authentic leadership, and servant leadership. Let's see one by one. Empowering is really simple. You give power to your employees because they are close to the customers. So this kind of a participation, right? Kind of freedom, autonomy, decision making is empowering leadership. We give you the power. They will get the feeling empowerment so that employees will be more motivated. That's empowering leadership. So they get the feeling of control over their work and the sense of accomplishment later on. But we go a little bit further. Ethical leadership. Ethical leadership talk about ethics, right? Business ethics. What is ethics? Talk about the right, wrong, black and white, important, less important. So this kind of leadership try to demonstrate what is normally appropriate behaviors. What is ethical in organizational context? That's the key. This ethical is often come from social norms, from the law regulations. So what is ethical? These leaders try to demonstrate that to be ethical leaders. Some of the behaviors including a model what is deemed to be appropriate behaviors, being honest, for example, and make ethics salient in the workplace. Make sure that they set standards, reward good behaviors, punish bad behaviors to maintain this ethics. So they consider ethical consequences of their decision, meaning that they not just think about the ends justify the means. Instead, they think about whether it's right to do this way. They care about people, they care about society, they try to do the right things personally and professionally. This will be ethical leadership behaviors. It's kind of a normal but high standards for the leaders. You can also punish bad behaviors in organizational context. So some of their policy, including they find very positive related to the organizational performance, effectiveness. The third one, authentic leadership. These two often get confused. What is authentic leadership? That's a positive form of leadership that involves being true to yourself. So ethical leadership is being ethical, and authentic leadership is being true to yourself. Ask yourself, can you be true to yourself? Can you be completely honest to yourself? It's so hard even for ourselves, not to mention to the managers. But this authentic leadership talk about one form of leadership. They can be true to themselves because they have the highly internalized moral values. They internalize the moral value, therefore whatever they do is always ethical. It's always right. So that kind of a high level. So their conduct and behavior is guided by the internal values. And you want this internal value to be right, they have to internalize the moral values. So they try to act upon, you can see, act upon their true feelings, true values. This is what I believe. I do it this way. If this is wrong, you get big trouble. This must be right. But how can we know that this must be right? It's come from internalized moral values. If somebody could be in the process of experience, learning, and everything, they could internalize the moral value already. Then they could be true to themselves. I do this way, and it's right. This authentic leadership, you can see the key behaviors, self-awareness. They always try to examine themselves. Did I do something wrong? Should I correct? Should I change? Self-awareness. And maintain relational transparency. So whenever they deal with followers, employees, they are completely transparent. In this relationship, they're transparent. There's nothing to hide. This is me, this is what I do, and we are always transparent. Let's do it the way we believe. So that's why naturally will be ethical. And in this process, we also open to all kinds of opinions. That's a balanced process, saying that you get your suggestion, your ideas, your ideas. I'm not afraid with conflicting or even opposite opinions. We need to strike balance for the solution. The last part, you can see they have an internalized moral perspective. They know what is right, what is wrong. That's why they can be true. Otherwise, for our managers, you know how evil they could be, right? Ever heard this term? I think the book, The Prince, the book written by the Italian, saying Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism, that is the evil kind of way of governing, saying that the ends can justify the means. I do not care whatever method you use. As long as we get there, that's good. It's a book about the prince. So if the managers, leaders, be true to themselves and act upon their values, you can see how evil they could be if they have such a dark inside. That's why they have this internalized moral perspective. That's a key prerequisite for you to be this way. And who can be this? Who can be authentic leaders? They are more like saints. More like saints because they internalize the moral value, the right ones, so they can be true to themselves. No worry, no fear, no concern. Do what I believe, do what I'm supposed to be. That's it. Sense. So that's authentic leadership is challenging, right? But let's do more and okay, finish this one. We go a little bit higher. This will be authentic leadership. There, what they do, we get the results like trust, commitment, OCB, satisfaction, high performance. It's all come from the employees with authentic leaders. But if we want to go higher, what would be the higher than the sense? Anyone? Who could be the higher unity, right? Entity over there higher than sense would be God or the Pope. That's why we have the last level, servant leadership. This servant leadership is really going beyond previous leadership, being ethical, being true. Now I'm being your servant. So I will serve first and lead second. I want to lead you by being your servant. You should have heard this quite a lot. They have a genuine concern to serve others and the motivation to lead, and give you all the opportunity for you to develop yourself and to serve you, to guide you. So that's the servant leadership. You probably heard lots of stories about the Pope. Every year, he is supposed to travel around the world to do some symbolic behavior as a servant. For example, washing the feet for poor people. That's like a live broadcast. You can see that. Symbolic, not for all. That's the one that to show that I'm your servant, even though I'm the highest religious leader, right? I'm your servant. I guide you. I lead you. But I serve you first. That's a servant leadership. You can see they're empowering, give you the power, try to develop you. No problem. All the people, if you believe in God or certain religion, they develop you. They maintain, the God, maintain the humble humility. I'm your servant. Come here to serve you so that you can go to the head, right? So authenticity, saying that being true to yourself, like authentic leadership. Then interpersonal acceptance. If nobody accepts you, I accept you as your servant. You are valuable. You are the only one. Maybe you are even the chosen one. They provide a direction. Even I serve you, I guide you. That's the path. You have to go there every day, for example, to worship as a direction and to be your steward, like a mentor, guidance, and all differences together. Clear? When these servant leaders. So serve first, lead later. That's high level, almost the highest level for you to do. Most leaders would be more like a domineer rather than serve. That's why the new one so hard. Before letting go, let's think about new one. It's not really serious, really about the relationship between gender and leadership. So we discussed so many leadership theory. How about females? What is their role in these different leaders profiles? Are they different? The question you may want to ask female leaders. You can see that women have a tendency to be more participative and democratic. Meaning, they probably be the one better, right, than others. So we have to consider what we should do if women are so good. Think about the men. Male leaders engaging more management by exception. Remember this one, and a laissez-faire leadership. Laissez-faire means free. That is the one we don't do anything, right? So male do this one, females more participative, democratic. Maybe we should get more female leaders. The research found that they're equally effective. We should not discriminate against females, even though women hold very few top leadership positions in Canadian organizations. And among the Fortune 500 companies, only 3% have female CEOs. Very, very low. And in Canada, US, European countries, not very promising situation. Why? Because sometimes we refer to this glass ceiling metaphor, meaning the glass. You can see through it, but you cannot get there. So for all the women, leadership position, it's just there. You cannot get there, blocked by this glass ceiling. It's an invisible barrier. And even worse would be these days, we find more this labyrinths. Labyrinths talk about the twists, turns, detours, dead ends, etc. All the barriers for female to become leaders. Because females sometimes think about yourself, that's normal. When you try to find a job, you're concerned that would you get married, right? Next few years, would have a maternity leave, right? Or would you try to take care of older seniors or disabled at home and sacrifice your work quality? All these things, these labyrinths become a big barriers for females to become leaders. And that's why you probably also see that when we really have a female leaders, they're often called iron lady, right? You got to be tough. Why they have to be tough in order to be the leaders? Or the Wonder Woman, right? That's part of that because it's a role congruity theory. You don't have to memorize this one. It's just one theory to explain why females are different in terms of leadership effectiveness. Because all the leaders are perceived as similar to men and not very similar to women. Women, because they have a certain traits that is different from the trait associated with leaders. Agentic traits are all found on men. They would be very competitive, very assertive, very high desire for control, very physical sometimes, let's say this way, right? While for women, they are more care about the relationship. They're more like about the compassion. We will discuss in next chapter, chapter 10 for communication to see more difference. But you can see that females are not perceived having traits that are associated with leadership. Because we think about the managers, leaders are often very fast, decisive, tough, competitive, not like a women. That's why we have a fewer female managers. Even though we want you to just know that's kind of a bias. Females can be equally effective as leaders. Actually, they could be more participative, more democratic. And then some situation may need that one. Some situation may need more democracy and that kind of a consultation to have a high quality decision. So maybe even better, depends on the situation. So these are different needs and different combination. So in the real life, the combination programs and interventions is required to reduce some of the problems. If you still remember, we discussed cross-gender mentoring relationship, right? Mazia and Ying, right? Remember this one? Because of this difficulty in find a different gender mentor, females have more barriers to move ahead in their careers. Nobody is willing to provide as a career function, psychosocial functions. And of course, this, right now, we said that before, the Me Too movement makes it even more sensitive for this cross-gender mentoring relationship. I know that sometimes the joking, they talk about the talk show when older man, senior, like 70s, one day in the high school teachers, just say to another female professors, not teachers, so over there say, "You're so beautiful today." It's kind of a regular compliment. Or can I say, "You're so beautiful"? It's regular compliment. And that female instructor says, "What do you mean by that?" Or then they try to get the evil intention from the old gentleman. So that old gentleman, that's why the old gentleman called to the talk show that I would never say anything about it anymore because I'm so oversensitive. And of course, I don't even talk with you anymore if you try to consider something like that. So that will be really a challenge for an already difficult situation. It's difficult because so hard for female to become leaders, right? And because their personality traits, their characteristics are more communal, compassion, relationship oriented, less like a agentic, saying that managers. How you get this one make it even worse. So we have to balance this. What's right? Where is the thin line? Where does the thin line, so that we don't have a trouble, rather than just make this prolonged. This situation, female are not easy to become leaders, will be forever if you don't overcome this kind of biases or barriers. So next class, we're going to discuss different cultures. So culture and leadership. So in different culture, different needs, we may have to use a different method to lead people. So today we're going to stop here. Any questions? Any problems? Comments? We only have 2 weeks left, including this today, before we start to do the presentation or your project is due. So make sure you understand the deadline, the middle point, and phase 2 jump in terms of your activities. So do it. All right, if we don't have any questions, let's call it a day. We're finished for this class.